Thanks, Dave. I am Gordon, and I am an
Hey,
alcoholic.
Gordon. Hey, Gordon.
Let's see, prerequisites. My sobriety date is July 27th, 2022. Working on my third year. Higher power willing. I do have a sponsor. I do work the steps, and I do have a sponsee that surprisingly calls me when I tell him to. So that's cool. Yeah, I don't know. This is wild. I got called as soon as I woke up this morning and asked if I wanted to do this. And of course, first thing in the morning, my original thought was not yes. But thankfully, this program has allowed me a pause button to, before I could say no, I thought about it, and the suggestions is we always say yes to service. So without too much of a hesitation, I did tell him that I would do it. And I am thankful for the opportunity to be of service. My addiction was not unlike anyone else's, really. It started off relatively harmless, using here and there throughout the end of my high school career, kind of. And with each drink, it just kept getting worse. It wasn't, but maybe my fifth time drinking when I blacked out for the first time. And from all recollections of those around me, I didn't do anything too terribly stupid, so I didn't see a problem in it. And it just progressively got worse to, like, I don't know, every other time I was drinking, or if I was drinking at my house or someone else's house, I was blacking out. And again, in true alcoholic fashion, I couldn't see anything wrong with that. I thought I was just doing what you were supposed to do when you drank alcohol. As my disease progressed, I started not so much getting the repercussions that a lot of others have gone through, but I would start picking fights and arguments with people that I loved out of the blue over the smallest thing. So much so that I was living with my mother at the time and got into an argument with her over something on the news, I think, and went to my bedroom to get out of the argument. And I got on Facebook and I scrolled just one like aggressive scroll and saw an ad that said, "Do you want to get paid to play this summer?" And I said, "Sure do. I don't care where it's at." Turns out it was in Edmonds. I am from Virginia, so that was a whole geographical. But I suppose, unlike many, it was exactly what I needed, because not a month later from when I arrived out here, I got sober. And that's not something that could have ever happened if I would have stayed in my hometown. I had just done enough damage in too many places and had enough friends in low places that anywhere I went would have been too easy to just go right back out. And I can't express the gratitude that I have for the life that this program has given me. In just a little over 1,000 days, I've amassed everything back that I had, and more. Before I got sober, I had ended up wandering around homeless and eventually set down everything that I had and walked away from it except for a pair of shorts. So I eventually, July 4th, 2022, got picked up by some police officers that were responding to a different call, I think, uh, and saw me jump into the water at Fisherman's Terminal and decided they were going to come check on me because that's not normal behavior. So, they came over and were like, "Are you all right?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm probably just dehydrated, but yeah, I'm fine." Uh, Clearly, they were like, "Yeah, that's might be a fact, but it's not the whole fact." Um, so they were like, "Well, if you sit right there, we'll call you an ambulance and they'll get you hooked up to an IV and get you rehydrated." Okay. They start calling the ambulance. I started walking off again. And I did that like three more times until I walked through a restaurant, tried to get on someone's laptop, and then they finally handcuffed me and put me against the wall outside and was like, "You need to stay in one place so we know the ambulance knows where to get you. If you keep moving, they're not going to know where to find you." It's like, "Oh, that makes sense." And so I did wait. They took me to a 21-day stay in the psych ward. Um, who decided it was a good enough idea to let me out on the premise that I was going to go get money from the bank, go get my ID, and fly back to Virginia. Um, I don't know if you guys know, but you can't get money out of the bank if you don't have an ID or your bank card. So, thankfully, I was able to get a courtesy withdrawal because I suppose that $100 is not the worst if the bank ends up losing money. Um, and the teller was sweet enough to double it for me. So with $200, I walked over to Walmart and got a phone so I could start calling my mother. And um, it, I don't know, I just started wandering back, doing the same things, not knowing where I was going. Um, Eventually, I ended up at another body of water. And I called my mom and I was like, "I don't know what I'm doing. I'm spinning my tires again." Uh, on July 3rd, I guess, of 2022, I had stumbled into Essence Massage Spa on Aurora, and a lovely gentleman by the name of Dave answered the door and allowed me to get a massage for the $40 in cash I had left on me. I still don't recall any recovery actually being mentioned, but when I was in the psych ward, um, I was able to call my mom, which was one of the numbers I knew off the top of my head, and I asked if she would call the spa to see if he would look across the street because I thought I left one of my backpacks there. Um, why I thought it would still be there is beyond me. But I suppose that's when they started talking about this program, um, and he mentioned that he might be able to help me. Um, Next thing I know, I'm in the psych ward getting a call from my AA sponsor. Um, when the nurse handed me the phone, I was like, "I didn't know I had one of those." Um, and when he introduced himself, I was like, "Well, at least I know who you are. I guess I'll continue to listen." Um, and thankfully, I did because when I called my mom at the water and was like, "I'm spinning my wheels again," she said, "Did you call Dave?" I said, "No." She said, "Call Dave, call me back." Click. So I did. Um, and he's like, "They let you out? No way. Um, where are you?" And I was like, "I don't know, somewhere in Tacoma." And he was like, "Well, I need an address." So I got him the closest address I could find, and he was like, "We're right around the corner. We'll come pick you up." Um, sure enough, 25 or so minutes later, here comes people in this work van. Um, to pick me up, and they took me out to a job site they were working in Port Orchard, and took me to my first meeting the very next day, which is July 27th, my sobriety day. And situations like that just made it really easy to do my first 3 steps, because I couldn't doubt that a higher power was working in my life. Like, I couldn't have planned those situations to work out the way they did if I tried, because all of my addiction was trying to make situations like that happen, and they never did. But like I said, today this program has allowed me to stand up here and not be an absolute pile of nerves. Public speaking is something that in my addiction, especially, I would tremble violently at even the thought of having to stand in front of people and speak. And now, even on a short notice, I know that I'm just here to share my story, and most anyone that's going to listen has probably had similar experiences, so I won't sound like I'm absolutely crazy. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's all I got. Thank you guys for having me.